So I will start with, I'd like to do for Tunç Kardan, who is the Deputy General Manager of Borsa Istanbul. Welcome once again. Borsa Istanbul has a long history, and also it has gone through many important stages before reaching the present day. It's a very important market, so let's start with this. Thank you very much. So if I may, so yes, we just had a digital accident. We need to turn the microphone on. First and foremost, if I may, I'd like to show a 2-minute video introducing Borsa Istanbul, and it will be broadcast both online for our online viewers, and I believe that this will be important for our online viewers as well. So, and I'd like to show this very short video. If he says, let's watch it first, and then we will base our conversation on the video later. Thank you.
Dersaadet borsasını kurduk, yerli ve milli değerlerimize sahip çıktık. Yıllar içinde değişen ve gelişen borsamız 1985 yılında İstanbul Menkul Kıymetler Borsası adını aldı. 2013 yılında ise İMKB vadeli işlemler ve opsiyon borsasıyla İstanbul Altın Borsası'nı tek çatıda Borsa İstanbul markası altında birleştirdik. Borsa İstanbul, dünyanın en büyük borsaları arasındaki yerini aldı. 2013 yılında ülkemizin İstanbul Finans Merkezi vizyonuyla Türkiye sermaye piyasalarının dönüşüm programını hayata geçirdik. Çalışmaları 2014 yılında başlayan 36.500 metrekare kapalı alanda modern mimariye ve ileri teknoloji donanımlara sahip yerleşkemizi 2016 yılında tamamladık ve gücümüze güç katmak için sermaye piyasamızın iki çok önemli oyuncusu Takas Bank ve Merkezi Kayıt Kuruluşu'yla aynı çatı altında buluştuk. Bugün hep beraber çok önemli bir işbirliği ve performans sergiliyoruz. Tüm birimlerle tam entegre, yüksek emir işleme kapasitesi ve çok sayıda yeni fonksiyon içeren sistemlerimizle dünya borsalarıyla yarışıyoruz. 2017 yılında atılan büyük bir adımla iştiraklerimiz Takas Bank ve Merkezi Kayıt Kuruluşu, Takas İstanbul ve Merkezi Kayıt İstanbul marka isimleriyle daha güçlü bir vizyona kavuştular. Bununla kalmayıp Borsa İstanbul grubu markası altında bir araya geldiler. Dünya ile yarışan ekonomimiz Borsa İstanbul grubuyla dünyaya açılıyor, değerine değer katıyor. Bir adımla başlayan başarı öyküsü çok büyük adımlarla geleceğe taşınıyor. Borsa İstanbul grubu.
Serdar Bey, ben burada...
Serdar Bey, I would like to say, as you saw in the video as well, Borsa Istanbul was established in 1873 as Dersaadet, and before this, we know the process about the Crimean War, which started in 1854, and then in 1985, the Istanbul Stock Exchange opened, and I'd like to emphasize that. So we are talking about a digital transformation of Borsa Istanbul. It's today and tomorrow. In 1993, we started order transmission using computers and also with remote access, and also order transmission started. And also in 2001, and remote access order transmission. Those who are into technology would know from 1993 and 2001, we used diskettes in order to transmit orders, and some of us would remember. However, and after 2001, this order transmission, so we had a platform which made it possible for this transmission to be made online, and also as part of the collaborations of Borsa Istanbul with the grades in the sector. So we have the futures market, and also we have precious metals, and also the borrowing markets from 2013 to 2018. So all the four markets have been brought together under a single platform. And also, we can also present this as the digital transformation story of Istanbul Borsa. UCC said that these markets have been brought together under a single roof. And also, you're talking about the digital transformation of Borsa Istanbul. And also, we're talking about a constant change and development and also product diversification in Borsa Istanbul as well. So digitalization doesn't stop at a certain point. It has to continue on a continuous basis. And I think, I believe we better define digitalization as well. Digitalization is a dynamic structure. And this digitalization that we are experiencing today must be analyzed as well. Digitalization starting from 1950s, after the invention of transistors, it started. However, we'd better go to the roots of digitalization as well, who were trained in engineering would know this clearly. And so our late professor said, so if you are to talk about a vehicle or a train, start from the bolts of it. So the origin of digital is based on 0 and 1. So we should, I think, clearly state this. So these are digitals, and also in English we have digits. And this concept gives us an idea about how it formed, how it came to being. When we look at numeric systems used by humanity, because we are talking about digital, and so if you are to state how this 0 and 1 formed in the 7th and 8th centuries in India, so this is it dates back to Khwarizmi, who examined the use of 0. And when we talk algorithm, so it comes from the pronunciation of the name Khwarizmi. And Khwarizmi wrote an algebra book, and so the origin of information technologies is algebra, and algebra, so it is derived from this algebra. In 1950, if you invent transistors, so which is the third industrial revolution, then so there is a transition from from an agricultural society to an industrial society. This is one of the most important phases in the of humankind, and also the use of energy is a second industrial revolution, and the third industrial revolution is a transition to an information society, and also the invention of transistor, which was followed by Alvin Toffler says in 2008. He talks about a third wave. The third wave is the third period of industrialization. So the agricultural society, and also we have, and also the use of water and also steam power, and also the use of energy. And in the new period, in 2011, in Germany, with Industry 4.0, industrialization came out of dark factories, and so we're heading, so it evolved towards a world where humans were excluded from production, and then we are talking about society 5.0, and we are talking about human beings as these stakeholders of industrialization, and still in this world which has been digitalized since 1950, data, unlike the economy of the ancient or former era, so production, soil, and also capital are pushed to the background, and also data has become dominant. So we're working in a digital economy, and we need to understand this really well when talking about today and tomorrow. And when we talk about our roadmap for tomorrow, and as a stakeholder of digital economy, and we should be discussing our digital maturity level. Thank you very much. And so Taşkın Öker, who is the Deputy General Manager of Settlement and Custody Bank. And you were talking about establishing. And so, can you please tell us the history? Tell us about the history of the digital transformation of the settlement and custody bank, and what's your outlook to the future? Serdar Bey, I'd like to start with a definition, easily rememberable definition of digital transformation. And in order to render more effective and efficient the products and services provided, these products and services are carried through a digital transformation. As Jeppe said, it dates back to very old times. And so and I think that the second, third, and fourth industrial revolutions have laid the ground for this. And especially after 2011, digitalization has speeded up, and also in order to enhance the quality and also efficiency of their services, everybody subjected their services to transformation, and also the pandemic that we experienced in 2020 also accelerated this process as well. Everybody was caught unprepared to the pandemic, and those companies which had completed their digital transformation to a large extent were able to survive. So the impact of the pandemic has been great on digital transformation, and also those companies which were lagging behind have taken action in order to bridge this gap. When we're talking about digital transformation, we also need to talk about fintech. As its name suggests, it's a point where finance and technology come together. So finance is about everything about money. It's about supporting technology and also shortening the time of our transactions about money. So fintech is about so it's a continuum of services and also products. Before the settlement and custody bank, so the financial sector in our country is quite high on the list of countries in the world where we have a very broad, we are very developed financially. And when it comes to the settlement and custody bank, so our bank was separated from Istanbul Stock Exchange in 1992, and the first thing we did as an the first thing we did was to digitalize the shares. So I think a seed that was planted in 1992 has grown, and we have added lots of things on top of it. There are many services in the settlement and custody bank, and however, there are some very important milestones, and I'd like to highlight some of these, which are considered to be important. In 1992, we digitalized our shares, and then we handed these over to the Central Securities Depository. And in 2012, so the Turkish electronic fund trading was established as well, and so we have created some support infrastructures with Borsa Istanbul as well. And so these are of great importance in digitalizing the services provided by the settlement and custody bank, especially over the recent years, since 2018. So we have the gold transfer, and also that and also with the blockchain structure. So we have gold transfer modeling, and BIGA. So there's a structure called BIGA. So it is the short form of 1 gram of gold. So it's an abbreviation for 1 gram of gold. And over the recent years, as I said, so the public collateral technology, and also settlement and also custody structures are being also established as well. And when we look back, so digital transformation in all the whole Borsa group did not happen overnight or in a very short span of time. It's a very long journey, as is the case all across the world. And so it has been achieved step by step, and we have reached the present day with technology supporting each other. And because our country is in the heart of the financial centers, and Borsa Istanbul, I believe, is adding another value to our country. Thank you very much. That's all I can say for now.
Dijital dönüşümdeki hizmetlerinizden merak.
There are, of course, some aspects of your digital transformation. You will talk about this. Blockchain is a subject which is very much in vogue now, and we will talk about that too. So digitalization doesn't stop, and it has to run all the time. And we see in Borsa Istanbul, which is on the path to becoming a finance center, and the central register part, Özkan İlkay Kızıltoprak, market operations of the MKK Central Securities Depository. So how do you have an effect on the digital transformation in your authority? Thank you very much, Mr. Kotter. We are the youngest of these institutions. We are 20 years young, and we are still working on this subject. But instead of the technical part, I want to talk about more about the business aspect of the subject, especially when the capital markets and the law thereof. The CDS of Turkey is defined as follows: the registration of capital tools and their responsibilities to follow electronically and store centrally. So we have two words here: to register and creating of electronic platforms. The DNA of our CSD is digitalization. So this has been defined by law and given us as a right. And under Article 13, the rights to the registered capital market tools will be stored, and to be responsible that companies conform to these rules and give them an electronic platform for their communications between their shareholders, stakeholders, and investors, and building an electronic data bank and the registration of product nodes. So all of these have to do with digitalization. Like Necdet Bey just said, we are talking about the numbers 0 and 1, of the digits 0 and 1. We are a plant here, and all of the information which comes to us was been transferred to zeros and ones, so you can do transactions with these on a digital platform. And with the integration of products, the customers can use this data. So the central securities depository has over 230 million of information, over 53,000 accounts, and all of these information has been held in a digital environment. If we didn't have these digital environments, where would we stand right now? It's unfathomable. I think maybe you remember in Karaköy where we were taking and selling shares, buying and selling shares. So the old-fashioned way, and the digitalization works which has been done in the 90s has brought us here. In our daily life, we are in a good position, but maybe this will be far behind us in the future. So I'm curious in which direction we are going and in what pace. So lastly, I want to give the word to Necdet Kardan, Executive Vice President. So Borsa Istanbul wants to be a global player in the region. So what do you think is the maturity level of Borsa Istanbul? Thank you, Mr. Kuter. I want to continue where Mr. Kızıltoprak left off. 1993, we created the transformation of the order system, and we have achieved a very high pace. So if we look at the world, the production of information and the usage thereof is a subject of this area. So the time frame in which you are using this information is important. So like a shelf life. So the information and the creation of technology is in bulks and is a structure which gives us a very high speed. We are talking about 500 years of development, and from the 1950s to today, we're talking about the development of 70 years, but now the information is being created and is doubling by the hourly rate. So the human life, maybe half of the human life was in information technologies. So when I first started studying, we had computers with punch cards, and now we are doing programming in the whole world in a very fast pace. And the technological infrastructure of Borsa Istanbul is we should look how to evaluate this, because you measure this information in how much you have receive this information and how fast you receive it. So the studies in 2021 show us that in maturity of digital development are telecommunication technology companies and the finance sector. These are the initiators or carriers of this development. Turkey has done important strides here, but we see that the governmental bodies are lagging in a global perspective behind. But in Turkey, the digital transformation of the governmental and state services are pretty developed. In the digital transformation is in Asian countries much more further, and they say other companies and bionic companies. What are bionic companies? This is a very interesting term, because these are companies who are using the technology on the highest level, on the bleeding edge, and all of these information technology systems are integrated into their systems and gives them an sustainable development. And all of this is a digital transformation which is never ending. So when you look at companies who are leaders in technology, we'll see that they are working on the next 3 to 10 years. And we have to work on the digital transformation and see this as a means for better competition. And we're talking about information competition, and you are using data for this because we have data, and data information gives you the edge compared to other countries and sectors. So you have to have the instruments for that, and these are infrastructure. And I want to give an statistical information about Turkey. Turkey has done the digital transformation very fast in comparison to Europe and Western countries, because we have over 90% usage of smartphones, and we are inclined to use it. And also other internet infrastructures are developing. So the information society does the investment in these areas. And the important part is, if you want to transform the digital world in terms of Industrial Revolution 5.0, you need people, you need to work with people who, you have to invest in people who are a very high literacy in these subjects. Turkey has a lot of unicorn companies. Okay, we are lagging behind in industrial revolutions, but in digital technologies, we have unicorn companies in Turkey. And we see that the path for Turkey is open, is clear, and we can use this information to open new areas for more competitive competition in this area. The infrastructure with Istanbul, Borsa Istanbul, has been done with a technology transfer in the year 2018 and 2013 and 2018. We finished these transfer, but it didn't stop there, because the infrastructure of the Turkish stock exchange, Istanbul Stock Exchange, was 10,000 in a second, and now it's 100,000 a second. So we are working with 60, 70 microseconds. Our transactions are done in 60 to 70 microseconds. This is our infrastructure. And in the management standards of information technologies, this has been audited. We have ISO standards and have an enormous data center. And this for doing backup and other infrastructure aspects, we are on par with the world, and in some areas are also faster and more developed. And when we are seeing making a comparison with benchmarks, we see that we are far in front.
Taşkın Bey, in digital transformation, the settlement and custody bank. So what are the services you are making great efforts on in terms of digital transformation? So I can go on. And Necdet Bey is stopped at a very, very nice point. Let me continue from where he left. As the Borsa Group, in 2015, we have renewed our data center infrastructure as a whole and as the three institutions. And we have structured our infrastructure with up-to-date technology. So digital transformation is not limited to IT. So the senior management showed the necessary will, and then they should be prepared to be looking forward continuously. And also, as I said, it's not limited to IT as well. So human resources and um, with the required personnel, this topic should remain current and up to date all the time. In 2018, and so we have commissioned our service of check clearing, and so we use the button. Uh, so we had interbank clearing system before this. In check clearing, but maybe before that, we should say, so the banking industry, with the regulations of the RSA, it is a highly regulated industry. And so with this check clearing facility being commissioned, so business continuity and also security and also in terms of speed, and we have gone through as a remarkable transformation, and also the lossless gold transfer system has been commissioned as well. And so gold transfer, so let me put it this way, without going into too much detail. So the gold transfer system, so with the golds in the sales of Borsa Istanbul, so we register the physical gold in the safes of banks, and uh, so we are talking about a lossless transfer system between Borsa Istanbul and also the banks, and this didn't exist before, and I believe that it is very beneficial for the public as well. So the gold transfer system has been achieved in two ways. So one of them is the conventional. So we used conventional technologies to this end. In December 2019, we also commissioned our blockchain infrastructure as well. Towards I will leave the topic of blockchain to the end, and also for the internal system. So we are going through a very remarkable transformation in terms of the internal systems of the settlement and custody bank as well. So we have an electronic document management system and also the ERP system as well. In line, so these are being shaped in line with the needs of the settlement and custody bank, and so they have terminated the use of papers, and everything has been transferred to a digital platform. And so in the structure, we target to achieve all these things digitally from end to end. So we are audited. We are the most audited bank in the world. There's a never-ending cycle of BRSA audits and also Borsa audits as well. And so our internal structures and also our internal processes should be are based on a structure that we call orchestrate. So we have a GRC system, governance, risks, and compliance system is based on the system, and also the ITSM modules are also operated on this module as well. And so we have a call center, a call system, and also project management, and the request management and demand management have all been digitalized, and within the group, we have a very interactive system as well. So these systems are interactive. Özkan Bey, so you talked about business processes of the Central Securities Depository. So can you give a couple of examples about how we digitalize this? With pleasure. And we talked about registration, and also we already established our system, and also the electronic platform has been developed, and also the capital market tools. The relevant capital market tools are now being registered, and so we have digitalized most of them. Starting from 2011, with this digitalization, what have we achieved? First of all, we achieved a significant integration with our members because it was a messaging system used around the world. And secondly, electronic security transfers was under the control of the central bank, and also we had storage based on the right owners. And then we also achieved an integration with this as well. Why am I telling you this? Because these are transactions which can be achieved digitally from end to end, and also so we have also achieved an electronic general assembly system. I don't want to go into much detail about this. And today and tomorrow, in the panels and trainings to take place today and tomorrow, much information will be given about this. But our electronic general assembly system is one which has been exported to another country. Indonesia, for example, is using the electronic general assembly system that we have created. They are supporting their own financial systems. It has been developed using national and domestic sources. And of course, this has become even more important with the pandemic. And so we also have an electronic board of directors system, and so this also enables an official approval of transactions to be made between various entities, and also as Necdet Bey said, data, so the data center or being a data center, and I believe is a very important milestone. You can you can think about certain things about digitalization only if you have data in hand. In order for you to be able to define your digitalization process, there should be some data available to you. As I said, so we have the data of 28 million investors and also 53 million account holders, and we have data coming from more than 5,000 members, and also we use our own systems, and then we process this data using our systems, which are supported by artificial intelligence as well. We also make them available to academicians and also to public institutions as well. So we have a data analysis system which we make available to everyone who is interested, and we need to develop this even further. And we are engaged in some activities to take this even further as well. That's why with our members and stakeholders, we're discussing where we can reach. We're talking about data and also registry and also storage as well, and also the common thought opinion in the world is data is the most important commodity. It is just like petroleum or energy. It is as valuable as these commodities. So the safety or security of data is very important as well. And then, so it's our last 15 minutes. You have 5 minutes each. And in cybersecurity, when we talk about when we talk about digitalization, we need to talk about security and also defending this system as well. And also, it's important to protect data. Serdar Bey, you touched upon a very important topic, and today all across the world, and starting from 1990s, and uh, so application development has become widespread, and information technology, and so information technologies have started to be used dominantly, and based on the aging of information, and where is information safety or security standing? So we're not living in a lean world. So there are some DDoS attacks intercontinentally. So these attacks are made in order to prevent certain services, and we know that these attacks are not conducted by teenagers, and also there are certain attacks, and the main purpose of this attacks is to obtain data. We should understand this. And when producing information technologies, that you should be and you need to develop it in a protected way with a reliable software. And so when defining information security, we talked about the privacy of information and also authorizing relevant people to access this information. And if you are a consumer of technology, if you don't have the, for example, software, or if you don't have the source codes, for example, then so information security is the main problem. And also you need to find new ways of protecting data that doesn't belong to you. And in terms of attacks, so we need to know how a cyber attack takes place, and also you need to be creating the stages to take measures against this. And also, so when you are using in-house products, and so code security can be achieved at the highest level. However, when you try to ensure security with technologies that don't belong to you, then you become dependent on the manufacturer or producer. What really matters here is to have a paradigm shift. And we should be, so we have the ability to produce and generate technology. And we have talked about the digital maturity level of Borsa Istanbul. We said that we're at a very good level. However, in software development, the main aspect is the operating system, and also and all those products which are used in critical points should be produced by Turkey. We should evolve in this direction. This has been achieved in the defense industry, and I think we should be able to achieve the same in the IT information technologies as well. For example, Pardus operating system has been developed by Tubitak, and then so there's a DBA base. We are trying to develop some operating systems for the financial industry, and as Borsa Istanbul, and for the management of critical infrastructure in non-financial institutions, we can say that. So we are now holding deliberations with Aselsan, and so we have ordered the manufacturing of some new servers which are similar to the servers we use in our data centers. And then we are creating an environment in which we will be able to use world-class servers. So when you develop your own products, and if you add, for example, the operating system and also the blockchain technology on top of it, then you can you can also enable yourself to prevent attacks coming from the periphery, because you have the control of the codes. And also I'd like to define these critical infrastructures as well. So the critical infrastructures in all the industries, so if this infrastructure is halted, then this may cause some social incidents and also remarkable economic damages as well. So in this environment of digitalization, I'd like to give the example of energy. There could be attacks on these critical infrastructures, and in order to prevent these attacks, and so cybersecurity operation centers should be established as part of these measures. However, in 2016, in Ukraine, there was an energy blackout, and as you know that, and it is stated that this blackout was caused by as a result of an attack, and also there were some cyber attacks to the uranium centers of Iran as well. and they lost some $800 million. Those such critical infrastructures, and so cyber security centers, operation centers should be developed. And as Borsa Istanbul, we have established a cyber security operation center in order to provide services for all our three companies, from intelligence about threats to and so we can provide defense against these attacks, and we can even counterattack as well. So as you know, that the financial industry is a field in which the highest amount of investment is made in the field of security. So we know that a bank has invested about $600 million for security.
Belki sonrasında da işte
So producing these products and maybe also exporting them. That would be an idea. So Taşkan Bey, what kind of and change will come with the blockchain technology? This is a structure which is in vogue in the whole world. We use it as blok zincir in Turkish. And the easiest way to keep it in mind, how the function is that encrypted data is been stored in a distributed network, not central, but distributed. And the data that is not centrally stored, but is in each node. Everybody has a ledger, and the information is everywhere, so it's ubiquitous. So 2016, we started to have an interest on the blockchain technologies, and we did some surveys and studies on the technology side and also on the idea side, and we spoke with fintech companies and coordinated some cooperated workshops. And we looked also in different type of infrastructures, and one of these was Ethereum, which was very interesting for us. And there was no technology which was in part of our needs as the settlement custody bank. So this led us to have a high motivation in creating a new product. So we talked about details, but the settlement and custody bank built a in situ R&D center 2017, and also realized a product here in this center. And in situ research and development is very important because you have a lot of funds for new technologies and also more chances to develop these. So we're trying to build a structure here which is transparent so that regulators can also look into it. So we wanted to have a physical counterpart, and the gold system from which I talked earlier was an opportunity here for us. And Biga was the model I talked about recently. So we use the blockchain technology, and we want to build a platform here. But this platform will also build a basis for our needs for future, and we can build different parameters on top of it. So it should have a infrastructure which is common, and we can build any financial instrument on top of it and it will be realized very fast. So we wanted to have a infrastructure which was adaptable to our new tools. So the most important part here is that we have here a confidentiality and security for these data. We ended our research 2019, And with the participation of 9 banks, we used the blockchain technology in December of 2019 and started to give this as a service for these banks. I want to name these banks because these are important. Ziraat Katılım, Vakıfbank, Halkbank, Garanti Bankası, Denizbank, Kuveyt Türk, Al Baraka Türk. These are banks who have joined the system. The technology we used here, I don't want to bore you with the details, but the technical details you can find also in the information platforms on the BIGA system on the settlement and custody bank. So if you want to have a closer look, please use this address. So we saw during the starting phase that when a transaction is started, this information has been distributed into all nodes in Ethereum. But we wanted to have here a security and close this information to the outside world. But the regulator should have the authority to look also inside. This is also what we achieved. I want to talk about the zero information algorithm. How to define it? You don't send the information to the outside, but you give them assurance that I am in possession of this information. So this is an algorithm which proves the existence of this information without disclosing it to the other side. So this led us to have a concrete information without showing it. So this works as a closed system, and we are defining the nodes, of course, with the introduction of the banks I mentioned before. And in the system, it makes an automatically settlement and looks for deficits if there are deficits, and these are closed, and then you continue with the transaction. And this is a new era for information technologies, because as the authority, even if you are not online, you can join the system after being offline. You can update your own system and continue where you left off. So this is, in the information technologies world, a means to get most of your investment in this area back, because it saves you costs. So we went into production in December 2019, and this was the first phase. But we are still continuing with our development, and we had recently some new updates. Two to the power of 38, we raised this to over 264. This is 18.5 to 2 times quadrillion. And the size is very important with databases. And we had 10 kilobytes, and we managed to lower this to 5 kilobytes in phase 2. And our calculation speed, we doubled our calculation speed, and the lag was 3 seconds, and we managed to bring it under 1 second. So a platform which works parametrically can be used for different purposes and with different financial tools. It was necessary to have these updates. So I think that BIGA has, with these updates, it will be a very strong light looking into the future. Thank you. So if we have 3 to 4 minutes, and I want to give these last remaining minutes to you, Mr. Özkan. So let's talk about your visions for the future. In our strategy, we defined our strategy for 2020-2023, and digitalization is on the top of the list. So we have a lot of products on par with these goals, and we outsource this. But also internally, there are a lot of things we have to do, and starting with CRM and RP, customer relations management, or inter-system integrations has to be done. And that's why we founded the MKK Information Center. So the Information Center for the Central Securities Depository. And another important topic is the automatization of manual labor or manual work. And we are doing test operations here with robotics, and we have finished one very successfully 2 weeks ago. And we have a lot of stakeholders. So the integration of these stakeholders is something that we are doing on a daily basis, and it's very labor intensive. So it's very difficult to do it manually. So that's why we did 3,680 test cases, which would normally take 2 weeks of time. We finished that in 2 hours. Each test scenarios and each applications were included, will be included. And even further, we want to find out where we can do this in cooperation with our members. This is also something we're planning for the future. And for especially in terms of electronic products, we are working on the storage of agricultural products digitally. So this, we are trying to have a minimum effect on other data sets on this data set. So that's why we are planning to adding new products and new data sets of new products into the system. We would like to thank our participants, Necdet Kardan from Borsa Istanbul, Taşkın Özkan from the Istanbul Settlement and Custody Bank, and Özkay İlkay Kızıltoprak from CSD of Turkey. So we talked about the future of Borsa Istanbul Group's digital transformation. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kuter, for this